We continue with our laws of Shabbos. 29 Melachas, and our topic today, chapter number 8, garments that may be worn on Shabbos. Right, so it's a very, very famous topic. What we can carry, what we cannot carry on Shabbos. Introduction: the Torah forbids transferring object on Shabbos from a private domain to a public domain, from the public domain to a private domain, or the distance 4 amos. There is a 4 cubits, approximately 7 feet or 2.1 meters. 2.1 meters. Somehow I thought it's less than 2.1. Okay, 7 feet. Within the public domain. This is the public domain. Okay. The sages further forbade transferring the object from the private or public to the Carmelis, and from the Carmelis to either domain, and 4 amos within the Carmelis. Okay, so let's the commentary as well. So let's try to understand. So this one of the 39 melachas is that we cannot carry. Carry meaning the definition of carry from one domain to another. So in your house, in your apartment, wherever we are, it's a private domain. When you go outside, so a private domain surrounded by walls, by roof, right? That's a private domain. So when you go outside, it's going to be most likely Carmelis. It's a semi-public domain. The classic example of a public domain, it's only exists, I think, in big cities. Main Street, one of Main Street, should be like I think 32 amos wide, or 16 or 32, like meaning no, most likely 16. 16, it's 32 feet, right? So it's like 4 lanes, I guess, 4 lanes, like or cars going one way or another. So pretty wide, right? And 600 people passing there on a single day. And I think another condition that is that this street is going through the whole city. So it's like in the big cities, there is such a streets, like in New York, like in Manhattan, according to some people in Brooklyn as well, Queens, I'm not sure. In London, I guess, in Paris, right? In all of the big cities for sure. There are some streets, but all of the local streets, so like they're Carmelis, they're semi-public domain. So, and these Carmelis were instituted by the rabbis, right? And they gave these stringencies as a public domain to this Carmelis domain. So again, you're not allowed to carry from public domain, from private, from your house to outside, and from outside to inside. Right, so meaning to pick up, I don't know, package, right? So I don't know, whatever, take something from the street and bring it home, or even 4 amos, which he translates as a 7 feet, like 7 feet. I always say 7.5. Okay, so 7.5, 7 feet, and or 2 meters, 2.1 meters. Okay, right, in a private domain, or in the public domain, or Carmelis, so this semi-public domain. So if you think about it, the Carmelis is what was the Carmelis in all the days? So there were like courtyards. So many people, they have like private houses, and they were like stationed in the shape of U, the letter U, right? And they want to carry food or other things like among themselves. So that's like more or less Carmelis. But of course you can extend it to make it further. Okay, so there is commentaries quickly. Okay, so let's quickly read the commentary just to make sure that I did not miss anything. Okay, the following the brief description of these areas. A private domain in any area that with the area at 4 tefachim, hand brasses by 4 tefachim, that is demarked by the walls, or at least 10 tefachim high. Okay, so it's what is the private domain? Of course, our house is private domain, right, where we live. But even the smaller one, right, meaning that the 4 tefachim, by 40, like a feast. What is it? 3.5 inches, like for feast, one direction, another direction, and 10 tefachim high. 10 tefachim high. It's approximately like 35 inches. Depends on the height of a person. Like to up to the waist, a little higher. Depends on the height, right? So meaning 1, 2, 3, maybe a little more than the book, and so this is already considered private domain. So meaning if you think about it, like a mailbox, right? So the mailbox, where do you put the mail? Drop of mail in a city, so it would be like a private domain because it's high enough. For sure, it's more than, I mean, where we live, I think in other countries as well. So because it's big enough to actually to qualify as a private domain. So meaning what? So it's a private domain inside of the public domain. So meaning you're not allowed to take something from the mailbox, or like, let's say, I don't know, whatever, and then put it on the ground, or put it there, because it's going to be transferred from one domain to another. Okay. So again, so let's quickly continue reading. A public domain is highway, a city street or square, right? These streets must be at least 16 hours. So here we go. Wide and frequented by many people, right? So 16 hours. So as we said, it's pretty wide. Some Rishonim rule that unless 600,000 people traverse the thoroughfare, it is not judged a public domain. The streets must also be not roofed, or walled, and must pass through the city entirely. Right. So as we said, from one part of the city to another. I mean, are such a city? I think so. Yes, but sometimes there is a street. Well, there is a street, but it's like begins with a one name of the city and then goes into another. Okay, so but technically we don't care about the name. It's just the same street. Okay. A Carmelis is an open, unclosed area, not meaning the specification of public domain, and any area that 40 tefachim by 40 tefachim with walls between these walls between 3 and 10 tefachim high. So if for public domain it's 10 tefachim, here it's from 3 to 10 tefachim high. So it could be Carmelis like very, very low, right? Very, very low. Okay, so that's a quick introduction into domain. Again, just quickly to summarize, 3 domains. One is private, one is a Carmelist, so it's semi-private. So all of the streets, as soon as you go outside, it's Carmelist, but we treat it as public. It's the rabbinical stringency, and then for sure public domain, like a huge streets. Very wide, but again, since they say you need 600,000 people, so it's not so simple. It's only some streets. Okay, so for example, in Manhattan, when Moshe Feinstein Zatzal used to live, so he said absolutely not. You cannot do this Eruv in a city. Did they do Eruv in that city in Manhattan? I think so. That's it. I think so. Maybe after he passed away, because that's what people. I think have Moshe Feinstein said no, and he wrote 40 pages why he said no, and then people behind his back, they do exactly what they want. Guess what? Very, very simple. Continue. It is forbidden to transfer anything from one of these domains to another. So from one to another, as we said, or 4 amos in a public or Carmelist domain. Okay. Continue. It is obviously permitted, however, to walk from one domain to the other while closed. Right. So meaning transfer. So whatever we're wearing on ourselves as a part of the clothing, and we're going to see some other things which are not like we understand as clothing in our like a day-to-day life. It's going to be considered article of clothing. We're going to see, right? So meaning that if you walk in them, there is no problem. It's not like our goal to transfer it, right? Our goal is to wear it, right? Even though one thereby transport his apparel to the different domain, since the article the person is wearing serves the function of clothing him, they subordinate to him and are considered as if they were the part of him, rather than separate object carried by him. So, and language is a little strange, right? A clothing is a part of me, it's subordinate to me, like what the difference? It's just my clothing. But we're going to see that this author, this Rabbi Cohen, right, so he's very, very precise in his language. And we're going to see in some cases, so we need to see, is it subordinate to something that's not part of the clothing? Is it subordinate or not? Right, so what does it mean? For example, if person has a price tag is no problem, right? Because the last time we said that you can cut off the price tag. But if you have this like tag from cleaners, from dry cleaners, right? Or these extra buttons, right? On the short, at least on the men's shorts, on all of them, you have on the bottom of the shorts 2 extra buttons. Are they part of the short? No. The short needs them? Like no. We don't use them extra, like spare buttons. Okay. So is it considered transferring? We're going to see. Okay. So he's very precise. Right. So again. So last sentence again. Sorry. And it says, since the article that the person is wearing served as a function of clothing him, right? And we will need to define what is the clothing him means, right? They're subordinate to him and considered as if they were part of him, rather than separate object being carried by him. So carry is not allowed, but if it's part of him, there is no problem. However, not all the parts, not all of the items that the person wears is automatically considered apparel. So now we need to define what is clothing, right? So some people, when it's raining, they put bags or something on their head, right? Like this black bag, like a garbage bag, they put it on the head. Is it clothing? I don't think so, right? But people wear to protect from the rain. Okay. In order to consider apparel, an item must serve one of the following functions. So consider clothing. What is it? A. To clothe, there is a cover a person for the sake of modesty and dignity. So under this category, as we understand, most of our clothing to cover, right, a person for modesty and dignity. Okay, so that's straightforward. B. To protect the body from the elements or injury. Okay, so elements is what is like a raincoat, right? Would be, and injury could be, we will see maybe some bandages, right? To protect from injury, from protect like injury from infection or something. Okay, and C. To prevent discomfort. Okay, each of these categories will be more clearly defined defined later in this chapter. So again, clothes for the modesty and dignity. Second, to protect the body from elements and injury. So meaning in second category would be like a coat. So if a person completely rests, so this coat is not for the modesty or the dignity. This coat is to protect from elements. Okay. And to prevent discomfort, so we're going to see. Okay. So continue. If something does not fit into this one of these categories, it is not considered clothing, and one is forbidden to walk from one domain to another, or 4 amos in the public domain, or Karl means domain, wearing it double quotes. So meaning in order to understand whether or not we can wear the something, so we need to understand whether it is it is a clothing or not clothing, right? Article of clothing, not article of clothing. Okay. So it must fall under one of these 3 categories. Rather than being subordinate to a person, such an article considered an independent entity that this person is carrying, not wearing. To list by the single example, striking worker would not be permitted to wear placards while walking in the public domain, since the placard serves none of the functions described above. So that's very interesting example. So this striking worker, I saw it a few times in my life, and right, so or several times, right? So that they would wear like some sign, a huge sign in front, and it's like with a rope or something. They do like a string. It would connect it to the one like on the back. So from 2 sides. Is he wearing? Yes, he's wearing on his body. Is it like falls under one of these 3 categories? It does not. So it's not to cover for his modesty. It's not to protect from injury. It's not, and not to prevent discomfort. So that's amazing example, right? But the person is wearing. He's not like carrying in his hands. So on Shabbos it would be forbidden, right? Moreover, the sages notice that while in a public domain, people occasionally take off certain items that they are wearing, and then continue walking while carrying those items. To prevent such occurrences on Shabbos, the sages deem necessary to prohibit it going outside while wearing certain items of apparel. These include. So meaning there are some things that people sometimes wear, sometimes they take off. For example, what is the example? Sunglasses, right? So like person checked the weather yesterday, and it was said it's going to be very, very sunny, and now that he or she going outside, it's very dark. Like usually people take off sunglasses, but some people insist even at dark and then at night they walk in sunglasses. That's I mean, unless a person has a very serious problem with their vision, like and the light can hurt them. But majority of people not like that, right? So most of the people, when it's not dark, like where there's not sunny, they automatically would take off the glasses and that's it. Right, so that would be forbidden. It's one example. Okay, but he gives a different example. So a loose article that has a tendency to fall off. Meaning what? We're going to say maybe like a little bigger hat does not fit, especially in olden days. So today, if you want to buy a hat, it's going like half the size is like quarters, not quarters, but size like full size is half size. So like if you buy a hat, it's going to be most likely exactly your size. But in olden days, it was like not like that. Unless somebody's very very rich, yes, so they would make a custom made. But right, but so meaning if it's if it's not tight. Right, so it might be blown off by the wind, very simply. Or other things that are loose. Okay, so next one, B. The garments that might subject the wearer to ridicule, thus causing him to remove it temporarily. Right, that people would make fun of you. I mean, today, I'm not sure what you need to wear so people would make fun. So many crazy people. They do whatever they like, whatever, just to get attention. So, but okay, I guess we'll give examples. And C, the article that is often removed by the wearer to display to the others. Okay, so let's see the commentary. Actually, the sages applied this prohibition of 3 other types to the articles as well. However, since the other category is not applicable nowadays, we will not discuss them. Okay, so we're going to concentrate on these 3 categories, and the third category is what? That something would take off to display to others. And we're going to see that one of the most famous examples is jewelry. Right, especially when women would stay in the house all day long. I mean, all week long, and they would go to shul if they have a women's section, or visit their friends on Shabbos afternoon, and she would need to show off, right, wear all of this jewelry, and her friend, her girlfriend, would say, "Can I see? Can I see?" And she would remove, and they might walk in public domain for hours. Okay. So continue, and that is why they see that is why that men do not wear gloves in the winter, right? Because that's what they do. When you meet your friend, you want to shake his hand. You take off the glove, you shake his hand, and guess what? And sometimes you forget and to put what is it glove back, and then you would continue walking with holding the glove. Right, there are some people that do not let your hand go, right, and they don't want to continue walking holding your hand. I mean, that would be one of the examples. Continue. The first 2 categories will be explained in detail later in this chapter. Meaning what? A loose article that has tendency to fall off, and a garment that might so the people might subject the wearer to ridicule. Okay. The following chapter will be devoted to the third category. Right, so meaning that it's something that a person would take off to display to others. Let us proceed to examine these laws in details. Throughout the remainder of the chapter, we refer to wearing certain articles of clothing outdoors in double quotes. We employ the term for the sake of brevity, so not in public domain, not the cameras, so outdoors. So we got it, doesn't matter, it's public domain or cameras, we call it outdoors. Okay. In all cases, our intention is to refer to going from private domain into the public domain, and vice versa. Okay. So what does it mean vice versa? Some person give us something in the public domain, and a person wants to bring it back, or bring it to a shul or something. Right. So, for example, in the shul where I go, there is people there use Eruv, and the guy who is in charge of all the shuls. So the cleaning guy. So he's not a Jew, so there is no problem. On one hand, on the other hand, so he carries for a Jew for Jews what he does the ramp. So he installed the ramps for the wheelchair. So since there is Eruv. And some people count the Eruv, there is no problem. But if would be no Eruv, or people would not count on Eruv, it would be a huge problem, even for him to do it, because what Jew is not allowed to do, we're not allowed to ask non-Jew to do. And even though nobody asked him, and he goes, and this person is been in the shul, as he told me, 42 years, and he told me how he got hired. I just asked him, he told me all of the stories, right? He said, I remember like it was yesterday. It was 42 years ago. Okay, so he knows everything. You don't need to tell him. So, and this, you don't need to tell him. It's like you told him. Because he feels that, he or other people feels like it is expected of them. If they think it's expected of them, it's like you told them. Right? So, right. So that's the story. So we call it like outdoors, right? So outdoors, Outdoors, right. So public domain is the Carmen. So going from one domain to another. Even though he said outdoors, but we know like from outdoors to indoors or from indoors to outdoors is the same thing. Doesn't matter. Okay.